Evening, everyone. It's Sissy from Sissy's Cards and Crafts. I am a independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Eastern Ontario, Canada. Thank you for joining me again tonight. So let's continue on with the cheers and sips. Last night we made this card, which used first off our in color, in color cardstock, Strawberry Slush, which all of the in color products are on sale, and anything that includes in colors within it. So any papers rather. So that would also be this Cheers and Sips designer series paper, or DSP. So we used this last night. We used the suite, which was the stamps, the dies. We used a die here just to cut the it's supposed to be lavender out. And then we fussy cut the cup, and we also used a die from the Mixed Labels bundle to put our sentiment on. The ribbon is from the suite, Cheers and Sip suite, and the gems also are holographic resin dots are also from that. So that was the card we made last night. We talked about how we wanted color and coordinating colors that work together and really bump up the card. We want some sort of focal point on our card, and a sentiment always is nice. We also want texture. Texture can be in the paper, like we see the texture of the lines there. It is flat. There is nothing to feel as far as texture. The flowers also create a lot of texture, but then we do have some texture that is obvious, something we can feel and creates different texture to our cards. And of course the dots. We also want something that's going to elevate our card and add different dimensions or different layers. So we bumped up this part of the card with our dimensionals. We also bumped up this cup as well, so that gives us that lift and dimension to our cards. So those are some key things that we want. So continuing on with that, I kind of jumped ahead and did some prep work tonight for us. And what I thought I would do is let's add some texture with our embossing plates. And last night I also reminded you there are the 2 embossing plates that come with this set, and I used this one, the floral one. So it's called Glass and Gardens Embossing Folder, so I'm assuming this is the garden one, and this other one is the glass one. So we're going to use that for texture. There's many ways of doing embossing, but right now I've just kind of embossed Pretty in Pink, and then I embossed some vellum, and I want to show you this because I've got a couple ideas. Haven't quite decided on which one I'm going to do yet, but what I wanted to say is, if you've noticed, I'll put it on something dark. Maybe this will work a little bit better, this dark. I got some pink on that. So on this side, I haven't done anything, but here I've brushed some pink on just to help elevate or show that pink a little bit better. And what you want to do is, these blending brushes are awesome. They work really well. They're very handy. And then you want to get your ink. So I also want a scrap piece of paper here. You can do this right on your glass mat. That's not a problem. But the key thing with this is you load up your blending brush. So this is very soft bristles. Load it up with ink. Do not put it right on your paper right away. Go on scrap paper or your glass mat if you want to clean it up afterwards. Give it a little rub, because you'll notice when I pick up ink and as soon as I put it down, I blotted it, and I don't want to blot on my project. The other thing is you want to come in very lightly. So right off, and all this is going to do is really, it's just going to stick to the raised embossed part more. So I'm just lightly coming You're better off to go light many times than to put any sort of pressure on it, because pressure is going to create something you don't want to create. So just keep rubbing that very lightly, and circles are going to be very, very helpful with this, because you want to hit every aspect of that raised embossed design. If I just push one way, I'm only going to hit the one side, and it's not going to be as visual. Also, rotating your paper around will help, just because you naturally are going to press a little bit more one way than you will the other. Now, some of the ink obviously will be going on to the vellum itself on the back, which is fine, but the most of it will be hitting those raised edges. And so that's kind of what I want. Try to avoid the edges of your paper, because that will pull it up more, and then you'll define it, unless that's what you want to do. Okay, so I think that is good. Now, just, you can wash these and clean them, and I do that every once in a while. But what I like to do is just keep, I've got about 8 of these, and I've got a pink one, a brown one, a blue one, and then I just use that set of colors for it. So then when I'm done, I just give it a quick rub, and you'll notice there's very little ink on there. So that is as clean as I want to get it right now. All right. So I thought, I've got these 2 embossed pieces, and I thought I would do a Pretty in Pink. This is last year's in color, so it isn't on a part of the sale. But I really, with the paper, and I mentioned this last night, this paper I really liked. So that was kind of what I was going with, was this paper. And if I lay that on there, that is perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong with that. But I like just to elevate it a little bit more and put something that's going to define in it. So I have my card, which is an A2 size, which really is half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I've cut it, and then I've scored it in half. So I cut it at 5.5, and I've scored at 4.25. And then I have this piece of, this is our in color. This one's a little bit big, because this was the one I was going to use. I just went down 1/8 of an inch both ways, right? So that is 5 3/8, because it's 5.5 is one way. So I did 5 3/8, and then the other is 4 1/8. And it's just ever so slightly giving me a nice little border, so you can still see the pink, and that pink will pop quite nicely. And then this will lay on top. And now this is 1/4 of an inch smaller, so I've got a wider border there. Then I was thinking, with that, I could add this pink on there. So that's kind of where I was going with that. I thought that would look nice. The vellum that I did, it just doesn't, there's nothing there, right? It just kind of falls into the paper, because the vellum is see-through. So it really wasn't what I wanted for that. But I thought, you know what, I could add that. So that was one thought, because I really do like that paper. But then I liked the thought of the vellum. So I pulled out this one, this piece of the Designer Series paper with the Cheers and Sips bundle. And I like this as well. And then I thought we could add the vellum on top of that. And I really liked that look. It just kind of dresses it up quite a bit for me. So I'm thinking this is what we're going to do tonight. We're going to continue with this design, but I wanted to show you that design as well. Now, you'll notice this is a little bit thinner, because this was a solid color. I trimmed it down a bit. I don't feel the need to trim this one down because of the translucence of the paper. I do need to cut it down to the side, and I think I'm going to cut it to the full width of the card itself. So that 5.5. Yes, 5.5. What I will do though is look at where I have my design and where I want to cut it. So I'm going to be cutting it through the embossed part anyway. So I think I'm just going to slice it down. So I cut right through the tip of this leaf so that when I cut through this end as well, it's not going to look off. So that's another thing I really like about our paper trimmer is I can see this track here. I can just put this paper right over that track and I know right where my blade is going to cut. It's not something that I'm guessing at, and I can get it very, very precise. So now that I've cut that, I'm just going to come through, measure it at 5.5. And I'm actually going to go through more of that flower than I wanted. So I'm going to cut a little bit off here. A little bit more off. So I'm not going to go through that flower as much. Now, if you've got something delicate like this vellum and you don't want to damage your paper with the blade by pulling it too much on one end, pull your blade halfway in to your paper. So my paper here, my width is just under 3 inches. I'm going to pull this blade down, 1.5 inches, close this. Now that blade pierces the paper and I can just go up and down and it'll make it, it's more gentle on your paper. That's really true, especially if you're going to do an angled cut. You want to make sure you're doing that. All right, so I'm not trying to jump ahead here, but I do want to be prepared. When we're gluing vellum, if I put glue on the back of this, you're going to see it when I stick it down, and that's not exactly what we want. Now, I know I'm going to be putting a sentiment on here, and maybe one of our cups on here, and I could glue under them. That's the ideal. Like if I have a cup that I was going to be putting here, I would put the glue where that cup would be covering it. But I'm not entirely sure where I want to put it. And I definitely want to get these 4 corners glued down. So what I'm going to do is this lovely glue is so handy. I mentioned it last night. It doesn't really dry. So if we put some on, and I don't want to use a whole lot because again, we saw last night, it doesn't take a whole lot. I'm just going to put 4 little dollops or dabs or spots, drops, whatever we want to call them, in each corner. And I actually might put one in the middle, lengthwise this way as well. And then what I'm going to do is just put that off to the side. You can see those glue drops there on that. Maybe if I put it under the pink, you'll see it a little bit better. So you can see those glue dots. Let's just put that aside and they'll go clear and then we can adhere it. All right, so what I'm going to do is just what we did last night. I'm going to put these 2 layers together. Just a little bead of glue all around the edges. Again, a little goes a long way. And then I'm going to put it on and center it. And this is where the glue is helpful because it does dry really quick, but I do have wiggle room is what everybody says. And then I get it in place, I can secure it. So there we go. And then that will go on here, but I'm going to put ribbon on that. So let's hold off. All right. Remember last night I had said that these were great for our cups. So I thought let's do 2 drinks. And we're going to use these dies here for these drinks. So these 2 colors look pretty good. don't know where my scissors went to. These are longer than I would have wanted, but I'm going to just snip these off. And then we'll have these two drinks here. I'm going to pull in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Again, got my base plate, my base cutting plate, and I'm going to have to do one of these at a time. So we're going to position this. I'm going to use my Post-it note tape. Position it, and like I said last night, don't put your down here and have your whole cup full of drink, right? There's always going to be a little bit of airspace at the top, unless you're like my son, who will fill it right to the brim. And oh my goodness, he is amazing. He can fill my tea mug to the brim. I kid you not. Carry it from the kitchen to the living room to give me my tea every night and does not spill a drop. Then I go and take my first sip of it, and it never fails. I spill it right down the front of me. I don't know how he does it. He is ever so slow and patient when he's carrying it. All right, so there is drink number one. Now with this, you'll notice we don't have any lines for the cup. I could have stamped that and give us some defining lines for that, or you can take your blending brush and hit those edges to give you some lines for your cup as well. And I think that's what we're going to do. Since we've already used the blending brush tonight, we'll add a little bit more. Okay, so let's do this one. And you'll notice I'm kind of putting it on an angle, because if you put it, and this is really true for anything like square or rectangle, you want to feed a little bit through at a time. If you're hitting this at this angle, it's going to be harder on your machine, on your dies, and a little bit more indented more on your paper when you're finished it. So try to angle your dies. All right, so there we go. Here's that. And I'm going to save that little piece of tape because we're going to use it again. Put the die away because, you know, I will lose it. All right, where's that piece of paper? So let's just take our brush and we're just going to kind of go around the edges a little bit. There's still a little bit of ink in here, but maybe I need a little bit more. I don't want to go too dark. Oh, there's a bug. He just flew right at me. I was not impressed with that. Don't want to, maybe let's do some Petunia Pop. Again, this is my pink one, so I'm not going to change brushes. And let's just kind of come around the edges of the glass. I'm going to stay where the drink is. I'm not going to go too high because that's where that drink is. All right, so that just is going to define those edges a little bit more. Let's see what it does. So when we put it on, it just is going to give it a little bit more depth. And just by hitting the edges and not going too far into the drink itself, drink being the color, it's going to give a bit of an illusion that it's a little bit more rounded. Okay, sorry, I just had to pause there and come back. So yeah, just hitting the edges of that will kind of give it a little bit more dimension and make it almost look like it's a little bit more rounded. And you can see just by putting them on there, they look nice, but when we can add this vellum, it's just going to give another layer. And now if you look, can you see the glue? Right, you can see a little bit of shine of it, but that's it. And I actually just put my finger in it. So I'm going to just center this on here. And if you read the glue bottle, remember I made it to the size of the card itself, so it's going to overhang this a little bit. And now just hit where I've put those glues. Now there's a little bit darker there in that one spot because of that dark paper. So we'll try to make sure we cover that up one way or another. But now look at that, how it just kind of bumps that right up. So back to this, if you read the glue, the Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, it actually says that it is repositionable, if I could read it. Permanent or removable bond. For removable bond, moderately apply glue, allow to completely dry, position paper, and remove and reposition as needed. So it's meant to do that. And for the vellum, it really does make a difference. All right, so that's kind of where I'm going with that. And I thought, let's use some dies to cut out some of the things that we have to cut out. All right. So what have we got here? Grab our paper, DSP. Try to find that one sheet that had all of the goodies on it. If I can find one that's already kind of snipped up, would be nice. Okay, so there's this one. And we had the mint, right? We could cut. We had the lavender that we could cut. We had cherry that we could cut. And strawberry. Do a strawberry. Yeah, let's do a strawberry. Okay, so here's my snips here. Let's just actually kind of snip this paper out here. Actually, a blackberry would probably be better than a strawberry for the drinks that we have. So let's do that. And we're going to put these on. Oh, I can cut this off again even more, so we can separate those. Now my cherry, is this one going to work? With this one? Let's do this one here. I don't think it's our best option, but I don't want to waste any more paper than I need to. Okay, and then this one. All right. So let's put these all together, line it up, and tape it down. It's so important to tape it down. You want to make sure this isn't going to move. And like I said, if you can even tape it to the cutting plate, that's going to give you even a better hold. All right, so we're going to switch the strawberry out for the blackberry here. And There we go. Now our cherry and our mint. Some cherry. Trying to watch how the stem goes so I can get that on properly. And then the mint here. It's so great when Stampin' Up! Creates these designer series papers that we can cut out like this. It's just, it makes it so much nicer. I mean, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people enjoy coloring. I enjoy coloring, but you just, even with the blends and stuff, you don't quite get the shading that these will get, and sometimes just not the consistency of the artwork. So it's nice when it's already done. All right, so we've got our cherry here. There we go. I'm just going to stick it over here so I don't lose it. And now, just because of where it was on the paper, I've got a bit of a sharp edge. I'm just going to kind of cut that off. I think my die was larger than my paper. Okay, put these dies back so I don't lose them, because it is not fun when you lose these little tiny dies. It's amazing that we can cut these little tiny things, and it's really nice when we can make a piece of paper go the distance, right? All of these little pieces of paper gave me exactly what I needed. I'm even going to keep that because there's more there that I can use. So it's awesome, but it's also something we want to really monitor and watch where those dies go. All right. So before, and this is how I'm going to kind of make sure I cover this one spot up. I can kind of use that lavender to cover that. And that one's going to go there with that. You can throw a cherry and a blackberry. You put the blackberry up here. Cherry with the mint. And just kind of throw that together. So it looks good. But let's do some ribbon. Ribbon is nice. It gives us that texture. And this is a faux velvet ribbon. Show you the right side. I thought it would look really quite nice with this paper on this. Or I had white ribbon that we could put on. I don't know if I'm fond of the gold on this one. Just doesn't seem to bring out the pink, and I think it's especially because I've got that black or the Secret Sea background. It's not quite what I wanted, so I was thinking this faux velvet would look nice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it around a couple times. So again, keep it onto the spool. And I want to just run it around a couple times. And then we're going to just give it a tie. This one is a ribbon that you can kind of see both sides of. And so, well, I don't mean that. They're different. The velvet is only on the one side, not the other side. So I thought, you know what? It's not something that I can really make a ribbon with. I can do this kind of half bow like that. Might work. Yeah, it's not what I want. So, oh, dog saying hi. She's saying Mommy's been working too much and not giving her any attention. Daisy, just wait. Just wait. There. I think that's what I'm going to do. Just like that. I'll trim that off and I'll trim that off. And I can make this a little bit more, oh, now she's going to go do her roll and growl. That's what she does when it's supper time or bedtime. Okay. Thoughts? Really wish I could have you guys give me feedback. Okay. I'm going to glue these on here. So then we can just take the dimensionals and pop that underneath. So let's use our glue. And I'm just going to go on the edges here because I don't need the whole thing sticking on. But I do want to make sure I've got those edges down. Okay. All right. So pop that little mint on there. And then our cherry. I think that's the way I want it to go. All right. That will be one. And then we're going to put our lavender in. And then, you know, we have this thing called a take your pick tool. It's very handy. We pick up all sorts of things with it, but right now I could use that end, just that putty end, to pick up the one that doesn't have a bit of the glue on it. I'm going to pop that on there. And then we're going to put these in here. Do you know what? I think I'm going to trim that if I can get it off. Nope, it's already stuck. Okay. Then we're going to use dimensionals to put those down. So, like I did last night, I'm going to straddle the ribbon. Just going to use a mini dimensional. So we have regular dimensionals, and then we have mini ones, which are very handy. And you can see the little mini one there. So I'm going to put that on there like that. And I'm definitely going to use a mini one up here on this lavender. And then a couple on this. So the difference with last night's and tonight's, last night we did more stamping. Tonight we did more die cutting. Both nights we've used the DSP, the Designer Series paper. And we also have used the embossing folder. All right, so we're going to take our dimensionals and bump up this card, or dimensionalize it, or put it up a bit. So I'm going to put one here and one here, just so we can kind of get those middle sections. Actually, let me come down a little bit more here. I want to be more towards the middle. You can also use your take your pick tool to get these backings off. And just stab them and pull up. And you're going to stack all these backings onto the end of your take your pick tool and dispose of them. This is sharp though, so keep it covered. If something comes with a cover, I missed that one, it's meant to be used, so don't think it's not supposed to be used. Okay, so now remember how tight of an edge we had on this. I want to make sure I'm giving equal edges all the way around. And if you look at 3 edges, so I'm looking at the top and the sides, so I can manage even on either side. Right here I can visualize that. Then if I make sure the top is the same distance, I'm pretty much the right spot. Okay, so there we go. And that honestly would be just fine. But let's bring out this mixed labels set and let's put sentiment on. We've got a little bit of white here. I'm wondering if that will work. A scrap piece of white. So I thought we could use this die. Ooh, it's going to be just too small, that scrap. More scrap there? I do. I do. All right. Look at that. It's one from last night. Scraps are your friend. Okay. So we're going to do that. And then I thought we would use For a Great Friend. Now, this is a new set. It is new in the annual catalog. I believe it's the annual catalog. So when you're going to use a new die, you want to make sure you're cleaning it. So I'm going to get out my Stampin' Scrub, give it a scrub, because as I mentioned too last night, the Stampin' Scrub is really good for getting your dies, especially these red rubber ones, getting them conditioned. All right, we're going to use the Secret C because it is my new favorite. And I'm going to give it a try because it's my first attempt with this stamp. So just make sure I've got it set, and it is just beautiful. Between the fonts, the two different fonts, and the fineness of this. Guys, I'm honestly not a salesperson. I'm not really somebody that can just sell anything, but I can tell you the truth. And I have used stamps. I've gone to the cheaper places, bought the stamps. I've gone to the expensive box stores and bought the stamps. And they just didn't work, to the point where I'm like, I just can't stamp. This is just not working for me. I don't know why people are thinking it's such a great thing. It's just not my forte. And then I Stampin' Up because of, like I said before, because of the embossing and the cardstock. Cardstock is amazing too. It's well worth its money. It's actually the same price as any other cardstock, but it is good quality cardstock. And I'm a big Cricketer, so I like the Cricut machine. And to buy cardstock at the big box store, it didn't cut right. Their brands just did not cut right. Hit and miss. Sometimes you get some really good ones. Other times it wasn't very good at all. And I'd wasted more than I used. So there's no monetary value in waste, right? So then I got some Stampin' Up cardstock, and I was amazed at the quality of it. And then I thought, well, I'll try the stamps, see what this stamping is all about. And my goodness, it just was such a night and day difference. Okay, so I'm thinking I actually want to put that there. It does make this side of the card seem a lot heavier because that's where everything is. But I do have this knot on this side, and I can put some gems over there. But I just think that looks lost there. I could stick it up there, but I'm at that same, there's too much weight on that side. I just think right there, to me, looks good. So let's do it. So yeah, with the stamps, they actually give a nice fine print. It's not a blob. The ink too is well worth it. And really, once you try something and you know the benefit of it, how good it is, quality, then you just don't want to go back. And I have tried. I've gone back and used some of the other cheaper stamps that I bought, and I'm not happy with it whatsoever. So again, not a salesperson, but I can tell you what's good and what's not good. And this is a good quality product. Okay, I'm not happy with those gems. Give me a second. I want to get the other gems that I have here. All right, these were the ones I was thinking. This kind of purple. These ones just have too much of a greeny undertone for me. They do pick up a lot of colors, but these ones are purple adhesive back gems. I'm not sure if they're still available or not, but I do think they are going to be exactly what I want here. So I'm just going to put them on. You can see that glue is releasing there a little bit. And we want to have our 3s, right? So let's put one right there for our gems. And there we go. That is the card for tonight. So our 2 cards, and I've got a mess going on here. This one, mostly stamping, cutting, but the layers. This one, we've got this, really, this is the only stamping. We've used the die cuts from the DSP. We've got some embossing with both. We have the ribbon, those texture things, the layering, the dimension, all there. This one is a different fold. This is more that landscape and portrait folds. So that gives us a little bit of difference as well. And then, of course, we would put our sunbeam in there. So those are 2 cards from the Cheers and Sips bundle. Tomorrow night, hopefully I'll be back to join you. We will use a little bit more with this. Maybe we'll do a bit of a fun fold, throw something together, maybe some embossing, some little tricks there, but some heat embossing rather, and we'll put some more stuff together. But thank you for joining me. Have a good night and take care.